103.9 LP FM right here in Knoxville, Tennessee. Today is Sunday, June 6th, 2021. I'm Larry Rhodes, or Doubter 5. And as usual, we have our co-host, Wombat, on the line with us. Hello, Wombat.
Oh, hello, everybody. Thanks,
Hey.
Kentucky. Let me see your shirts. Thanks. We got thanks at the top. Kentucky. Let's go. Let's go. Yeah. Wow, there's a lot. There's a lot on
There
that
they
shirt.
are.
Way more than I expected. Yeah.
For our audio audience, we had some T-shirts showing Thanks, Kentucky. And our guests today are George Brooklyn, George Buffalo, and Dread Pirate Higgs.
Ahoy.
Hello all. Digital Free Thought Radio Hour is a talk radio show about atheism, free thought, rational thought, humanism, and the sciences. And conversely, we'll also talk about religions, religious faith, holy books, gods, and superstitions. Wombat, what's our topic today?
We're going to be talking about something that I don't think many gods are very good at. And I think that's turning the other cheek. Why it's important, funny stories of when we've done it in the past, and why gods should be more prone to doing it if they call themselves perfect and benevolent. But before we get into all of that, I got to throw it up to our own Dread Pirate Higgs for our weekly invocation.
Arr.
Got to have the proper
God be
headgear.
me captain, I shall not want. He maketh me to float in salt water. He steereth me through glassy seas. He filleth my bowl. He steereth me through the straits of noodliness, for goodness sake. Aye, though I sail through the heaving of tempestuous waters, I will fear not sinking, for thou art with me. Thy mast and thy rudder, they comfort me. Thou preparest a feast before me in the presence of me mates. Thou quenchest my thirst with grog. My goblet runneth over. Truly, past and grog shall follow me all the days of me life, and I will dwell in the galley of the quab forever.
Amen. Hallelujah, everybody. Hallelujah. All right, so, hey, turning the other cheek is what we're going to be talking about, but I want to go into one of our favorite segments for the show. What you guys been doing? What's on your plate? Dread, you always got something interesting. What is the status of Operation Chaos?
Yes, well, unfortunately, so the latest letter has not come back yet from ICBC with respect to, because I argued, of course, that the letter I received from them suggested that the last time I was at ICBC, I was trying to get accommodation for my religious practice, when in fact the band was just a hair accessory, which happened to have the symbol. And again, we talked about this, having pitching it out to my mates there to go with a similar hair accessory. But
if I lived in Canada, I would be first in line to do this.
Exactly.
Yes, I would happily do this.
So we're still there. I'm just waiting to hear back from the Mucky Muck at ICBC with respect to whatever response he may have to offer before taking it to the next level.
Cool. George, you got some comments. Why don't you chime in?
Yeah, I just, for the listening and viewing audience, I want to explain a little bit about what Dread Pirate Higgs is talking about.
Cool.
And he's actually, Dread Pirate Higgs, why don't you do the explanation? Because I'm a little foggy on it. You'll do a better job than me.
The explanation of what? Sorry.
You're involved in a legal action, if I remember right.
Oh, yeah,
so
yeah.
Please explain to our listening audience what this is about.
Well, so really it's about what we perceive as institutionalized religious privilege. And
discrimination.
That is, and it's discrimination, of course.
Yep.
So I've gone into ICBC wearing my tricorn and asked for accommodation based on my religious beliefs, in a similar way that Muslims wearing kufis or Sikhs wearing turbans are allowed to and are given accommodation for their religious beliefs. Of course, they exclude us, they discriminate us against us, and for the most part, without a really good reason. They've said that, well, we're making this accommodation for religions that prohibit you from removing your headgear. And I've demonstrated time and again that there is no religion that prohibits you from removing your headgear. All religion is a choice. And if we started accommodating people based on prohibitions in their religions, well, we wouldn't suffer witches to live either, right?
Right.
So, picking and choosing what you're going to make accommodations for is patently absurd and arbitrary in every way, shape, and form.
In a sense, it was like the state government's like, hey, we have driver's license, but also no hats, just no hats. But if you're religious, you can wear a hat, but only if you're these religions.
Exactly.
And it's like, there you cross the line,
Yeah.
because now are you deciding which religions can and which can't, and you're not in a position to be able to do that. Larry?
And governments shouldn't be in the position of doing that. Although there are governments all over the world that have state religions and authorize this one and not authorize that one. America is not one of those. It's in the Constitution that we have. It's constitutionally supported separation of church and state. And all these local and federal agencies are ignoring that. And that's what we're against, protesting.
Buffalo wanted to weigh in. What do you think about that situation?
Well, it makes no sense to me. It's not logical. It's unreasonable, and somebody has to stir it up in order to make a change toward something that is more reasonable. That's my.
There's Dread Pirate with the big spoon. And listen, if I told you, if I was in Canada, you tap me and I'd be like, all right, just tell me what to wear. I'll get a new driver's license.
Right
I don't care. This is fun. We need a lot of people. I hope you have friends that are helping you out with this. Like, do you have a community that can like assist
Well,
you?
we have, we are a
part?
registered church. We're a registered society here, the Church of Flying Spaghetti Monster.
So there are warm bodies you can tap to be like,
warm bodies to tap.
Wear this and go in.
Sometimes it's like herding cats, right? Pastafarians by nature are not typically sound conformists. We're pirates, right? So we're kind of free spirits, and
so give them some booty. Be like, hey, if you do this, we'll give you free alcohol for the next month.
There you go.
That's Canadian beer. That might register. You got to invest a little bit in the pot.
This is true.
Just letting this in. George, I want to hear from you. How you been since last week, my friend? Go ahead and pick yourself off mute.
George Buffalo or George Brown?
George Brown. My bad. Brooklyn George, you're raising your hand and you're on mute. What's up?
George Brown, the 2.5 is me. And I just wanted to mention, if it wasn't obvious to our listeners, that although most of us are in the United States, Dread Pirate Higgs is actually in British Columbia. And so he's subject to I will say, a different tyranny than we are here in the United States.
He suffers the Queen's tyranny. Isn't that true?
State religion, Church of England.
Independence.
Right. I was supposed to say, Canada has a state religion.
Yep.
Yeah,
they do. So you asked me. Well, my memory can be very short, and right at this moment, the only thing I have to report really is that I have been jousting with bureaucracies in this last week.
Oh man!
And that I don't appreciate customer service that is based in the Philippines.
Oh, geez, shots. Okay.
Yeah, I mean the people are perfectly fine. I've got nothing against the
good
people.
Customer service is hard to find. It is, but I tend to find that the ones that have the best customer service also have the worst business operating practices. So like Chick-fil-A, amazing customer service. Everybody's happy, but then Chick-fil-A is like very, very extremely religious. Don't want to hire gay people, like very, very almost misogynistic in terms of their placement of people in their positions. It's just like, ooh, Walmart, great customer service. Like everybody, it looks at least sleepy, which is not bad, but Walmart.
But
like a whip.
I mean, on the technical side, I have to say that I once went to Walmart to look up one product online.
Okay.
And those mofos put 115 cookies on my computer. And that is abusive behavior.
Wow, that's crazy. Okay.
Yes, I am, but I'm sort of removed from the general faculty of the university anymore. I interact with some people in my immediate area, but Yeah, I am.
Cool.
The interesting thing that they selected, they were looking for places with Pfizer that had cold storage facilities. Makes sense, since that one is very sensitive to temperature.
Right.
And they picked University of Kentucky, and they picked the University of Louisville.
I know they're cold storage labs. I've been inside them. So yeah, that's great. Yeah.
Yeah, so that made sense. But what was interesting then is that doesn't necessarily explain the very efficient logistical effort to get the vaccine out early, set up the facilities, and so forth. And that apparently came because they hired the CEO of Chick-fil-A.
Oh,
there you go.
CEO
Everybody's
Chick-fil-A,
good at something.
Mr. Filet.
Yeah, and he apparently organized the systematics of it early on and got it going really fast and very.
Or
efficient.
let's be clear, he got his staff who are unnamed to do the work, and he took the credit. That's how a CEO does it.
Sure, but but why that CEO? I'm not
sure.
Nothing to do with this, but I thought that was a very interesting.
Yeah, that's
fact.
Great. Good job for everybody. Good job for everybody.
I'll stop the story at that point. This guy said a lot of other interesting things, but
nice.
Yeah.
Typically goes like, CEO, how do you turn a wrench? I don't know. I pay somebody to do that. That's how CEO. Larry, love to know how you've been.
Oh, I've been fine. Staying home, staying in. Actually, I've been going out and eating a lot more than we used to for the last
Same
year.
Here.
Yeah, and that's been great. It's nice to kind of be able to ignore those people that don't wear their mask because they may be vaccinated, they may not be, but you are. That's the important thing, because as long as you're vaccinated, you're protected against COVID. And I hate to think that half the people walking around out there aren't vaccinated, but they're not a threat to me. They're a threat to each other, which is a problem.
Yeah.
But no, I've just been staying busy online, editing video and audio and talking a lot on Facebook.
Larry, I got a hot take about vaccinations, and then we'll get into your trolling.
Okay.
Recently. But
My what?
The idea is, at a certain point, when vaccinations are available and uniquely very available in the United States of America, you're going to reach a point where the people who want to get vaccinated are vaccinated, and the people who don't want to get vaccinated and have been exposed to the education to why they need to be vaccinated still will not get vaccinated.
Mm-hmm.
And at that point, it's like, are we going to hold back society for these people?
Right.
Or are we just going to continue to move on and let the consequences fall wherever they need to be? Right. Because at a certain point, it's like, we need to continue to be.
Yeah. Well, we do what we can as far as spreading the word, but ultimately the responsibility is theirs, and we need to move on.
It's a personal choice. Right. And that choice comes with risk, like all other choices. Even vaccinating had like a marginal risk, and we decided it was nominal, and we decided to take it anyway. People who decided not to get vaccinated are like, I'll take my chances. Like, great. I'm not going to hold back an entire economy because,
Okay. Well, I have one thing to ask about that. What do you think Japan should do
for the Olympics?
Yeah.
For the Olympics?
They've got 2%.
They're still hosting the Olympics.
They have a less than 2% inoculation rate in their own country.
Really, right now?
And they're about to invite 150-something other countries there.
So here's my
worse yet, they're not going to require the athletes to all be vaccinated. That doesn't make any sense whatsoever.
No, it doesn't.
That's nuts.
Extremely irresponsible at the minimum.
Mm-hmm. That's nutty. That's so nutty. Okay, I didn't know that. You guys are blowing my mind right now. Anyway, so I'm thinking my other issue with the Olympics is that we should, I know this sounds bad, but we should just have them in like one of 3 cities for the rest of our lives or the rest of the Olympics. LA, and then like 2 other cities from around the world. Because
Vancouver.
That's where the broadcast is coming out. That's where you can have an Olympics and not worry about a town falling bankrupt immediately afterwards. Just like pick the spots where the cameras already are. They already have the airport there. They already have the infrastructure, and just fly them out there and do the thing, and then they can fly back home. That's all you need. So trolling, Larry, you're a notorious troll.
I don't troll.
You love starting
I respond.
You love spreading the fire.
I do.
You know when somebody says something that you don't like, you're like, well
that's
let me
not
make
trolling.
some posts.
Trolling is throwing something out there, and that's not true or just inflammatory, and then sitting back and letting people tear themselves up. I don't do that. I respond to other
It,
trolls.
it's not trolling; it's responding.
And I try to identify true trolls, actual trolls. If they're actual trolls, I don't bother with them.
So that's the thing I want to talk about. I want to talk about turning the other cheek. Sometimes in life, a message doesn't deserve a reply. And I have enough of a YouTube channel with an audience where every day I wake up with at least 5 or 10 comments that are like, yeah, I don't want to respond to these.
Well, yeah, there are several things that I won't respond to, and one of them is insults. If somebody is, if I'm talking to somebody and they insult me or use a snide backhanded remark, that's the end of the conversation. They're obviously not interested in learning anything. They just want to protect their religion and smack people around. So forget that. I'll move on.
Right. No, absolutely true. I want to talk about like good times when to turn the other cheek, especially on the internet. We can probably start with that. Dread, have you ever had instances where people have just been kind of rude? What do you look out for in terms of like, I'm not going to respond to this, I'm turning the other cheek?
Well, any ad hominem. I mean, when it comes down to attacking me or my person, that's a game ender right there. I've back earlier when I first got on Facebook, I guess I was not really prepared for how bad it can actually get sometimes, and I allowed myself to respond, and then quite quickly learned that, I better modify myself, otherwise I'm just going to be an angry person and likely to develop the same kind of behavior that I am not liking having, put onto me. So, that's all internet. I rarely go on Facebook now.
Okay, good points. Yeah. I wonder where you draw the line. So if somebody said, I don't take advice from beer from Canadians, but Dread Pirate, he's one of the good ones. Like, would you accept that as like, he's making fun of my country? Like the thing about what we just did this morning, where it was like, the Queen is in charge of Canada. Like, do you take that as like a, hey, come on?
No,
Canada.
No,
blah,
not
blah,
at
blah,
all.
blah, blah.
I'm not. I don't consider myself a patriot. It's.
Okay.
I mean, I just don't go there. I think the whole idea of ideas being, able to be scrutinized and made fun of is open game. I mean, we all have strange ideas, and if someone can point out the flaw in something I'm thinking about or some idea I have,
I see.
Good. There's an opportunity for me to learn. It's when it's personal attack. When
specifically on you and not just the things that
calling
you might
me a
like.
retard or you must be brain damaged because you
or uneducated
that kind of stuff.
Hey, it's just stupid. Nobody likes
whatever.
that. Yeah, nobody likes that.
You're a heathen.
Or heathen.
Yeah,
what
exactly.
about that? Have you been called heathen?
That's accurate.
Actually, I've
Larry, very true.
It is.
Very true. If someone called me a heathen, I'd be like,
and apostate.
Yeah, that's right, actually.
Well, I had someone, I had Jehovah's Witnesses come to my door in a van, and they were hopping out just as I was pulling up. And
they're hopping out.
Yeah, this one older fella's hopping out. And he says, "Hey, I just wanted to talk to you about, the Lord Jesus Christ." And I said, "Hey, man, I'm an atheist. I'm good." He says, yeah, not many of you in foxholes, eh?" And I said, "Just get back in your van and get out of my driveway."
Wow, powerful! I love it. 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 That's great. Yeah. So when the Jehovah's Witnesses knock on my door, they're more like, "Hey, how's your mom doing?" Because my mom's one too, so it's all part of the family. Hey, so Buffalo, what's up?
I practiced turning the other cheek just the other day.
Nice.
And I don't mean to go back to COVID, but it was a COVID situation. And that is, I asked, inquired with a person in our building who's really the manager of the building, and he also is the fabricator in the building. He's been there for 45 years, so that means he's sacrosanct as far as the university is concerned. About anything he might do is going to be kept quiet. But anyway, this guy, I asked him whether or not he's gotten his COVID shot, and it was just an innocent question. COVID. He said no, and that is whether or not you people who have gotten it die. And I asked myself, well, how should I respond to this? and I didn't. And so I turned the other cheek, I think. But, recently, I think, I don't know if he's going to get a shot, but his mind has changed because he's probably one of the maybe 2% of people in the building who haven't gotten their shot. And he knows that. So when we pass each other in the hallway, he doesn't say anything. And so I consider that having been a victory for myself. And that is I was able to not say something and still make my point, so to speak.
Hey, that's a great story. I found that if you were a vindictive God, that probably would have gone a lot differently. And there's so many great examples of that. George Brown from Brooklyn, do you have a story of turning the other cheek that you can share with us?
Well, I don't really. The way I'm wired, I have a problem. I don't always recognize when I'm being attacked.
Okay.
And so turning the other cheek for me sometimes is really difficult because I don't even realize that I'm in a position to choose to do that or not. So I might get pretty angry in response, like 20 minutes later when I realize what has happened. So it's
it takes time to register, even
or
though,
after two or
hey,
three
wait a second.
insults.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly.
When you do find out that you were insulted, do you then go out of your way to cause justice in the universe and flatten some tires, or do you just be like, it's not worth my time? Because
it's more like I deliberate I'll feel hurt, but I'm also deliberating over how I'm going to respond. Do I want to wound that person?
Yeah.
Would that be appropriate?
Emotionally or physically? Yeah, you got your options, right?
Yeah. So, recently I was attacked by a therapist.
Okay. How good did it feel?
Well, it was funny because she used a technique that a therapist should never use. A real classic abuse tactic. Just because somebody's a licensed therapist does not mean that they are a good human being.
Or a good therapist.
Or a good therapist, that's right.
Well, you need to describe this more because it's sounding very provocative.
Yeah.
Well, unfortunately, I don't want to right now, so please bear with me. But the thing that I want to do is to come back at this woman and say, you are a disgrace to your profession.
What? And you could just leave a bad Yelp review. Like Yelp tends to be the passive aggressive way for people.
Remember, it's not slander if it's true.
It's true.
And you can defend it.
Right.
Well, I'm here in the boondocks of wild Tennessee, and I don't understand my surroundings that well. I keep on learning, despite the fact that I've been here 5 years, is that there's a lot about the South that I just don't understand.
There's a lot for me personally, George. There was a lot about the South where I had to learn how to turn the other cheek on a lot of things, especially coming from California. And it was in terms of just weird comments I would get from people. And in some cases, I'd have to go out of my way to correct it. Like I would have people be like, hey, you sound white. And I'm like, ooh, you sound like someone who has not gone outside enough and spoken to enough Black people to know that there's a whole spectrum of different people who have, communication skills, and the ones that maybe you don't know don't reflect everybody, but that's not their problem. That's your problem to be able to go outside and meet more people. So it's not that I sound white. I sound like me, and I'm a happy, proud Black guy. And so you should go out and just talk to more happy, proud Black guys. That's more reflection on you. I would go out of my way to explain all of that to somebody because I find that very irritable as a comment. But I've also gotten comments of hey, you look like you can play basketball. Oh my gosh, I hear that so many times. And then eventually it changes from basketball to football, which is more of a question of my body dynamic. Is okay, I'll take it. I'm not going to go out of my way to correct them. Sure, there's a lot of Black football players and a lot of Black basketball players, but just because you're tall doesn't mean you play sports. Just because you're tall and Black doesn't mean you play a sport on TV or something like that. I'm
Anywhere.
actually a scientist.
Yeah,
So-
well, it's like I have to ask myself, do I really understand where this person is coming from, who I'm
Yeah.
talking with? Because what I'm finding, I grew up in New York City and I lived in the San Francisco Bay Area for 40 years. I'm used to an urban context and one that's very diverse
Yes.
in terms
Yeah.
of people, and I enjoy that, and I enjoy the diversity, and so
You're touching on a really good
surra-
point. You're touching on a good point, George, because you have to read the intentions of the people who are offending you, right? And determine if whether or not, based on their level of intent, is it worth turning the other cheek, or is the ignorance that they're coming from so potentially dangerous or critical that you have to go out of your way to correct them, whether kindly or in an aggressive manner, and be like, hey, not today.
Well, there's,
Not like
there's
this.
a little more. There's a little more to it. Because I feel that maybe
Talk to me.
I am in an environment which has an us versus them view of the world.
Sure.
And then how do I make my point in response without being perceived as a them and
Sure.
discounted completely because I'm one of those guys?
Sure.
You just find
And I-
common ground and try to, enlighten that area, what you have in common with the person you're talking to.
Well,
There's
thank you,
also-
Larry.
Yeah. The idea in my head of like, at a certain age, it takes more and more resistance to change like a personality. And is it my job to do that for every single person who I see? Or should I be like, you're a grown adult, you should know better how to act than that? It's easier for me to just take you out of my, viewfinder in terms of like people I care about or need to deal with on a daily basis, and continue to move on, because there's so many other people that I could be spending time with and enjoying time with than the rascals or the knuckleheads of the world. And so I find that when I look outside my window and I see like what's going on in the world, people tend to trend towards the silent, sane people, the silent, sane majority. But then when I turn on like Fox News or like some sort of radio station, it's like the crazy fringes that I'm hearing. And I'm like, this does not reflect what I'm seeing. And I'm glad that that is the case, at least for now. It used to be, I was scared for both, but now it seems like, okay, things are a lot better in the long term. But I got to choose my fights. And that's why I need to turn the other cheek. Larry, what's up?
It's about
Larry.
time for the break. We're halfway through the
Sure
show,
is.
and you probably need to take that now. This
Yep,
is
I see
Digital
it.
Free Thought Radio Hour and WOZO Radio 103.9 LPFM here in Knoxville, Tennessee. We'll be right back after this short break.
Just grabbing a
Okay.
Java.
Cool. Everybody restock if you need to restock. Larry, you
And
want to
you
get some tea? Get some
BRB.
tea.
Wombat, will you activate my video, please, and let's see if there's been an improvement.
You can activate your video anytime you want. You can just hit start video.
It says that you've stopped it, and
Yeah,
I can't.
I stopped it, but you can't. You should be able to start it back up again, right?
I can't override it.
Really? How about now?
Yeah, now it says okay. I can do it.
Go
Let's
for it.
see. No, it's flipped back to that you've stopped it.
There you are.
However, I think I've made it. I think I'm on. How do I look, guys?
Like a PowerPoint presentation.
Do I have synchronization?
No.
Do I have synchronization between my mouth and my sound?
No.
Still delayed?
Yes.
Is it bad?
It's very bad.
Well, hey, come on. Are
And then as soon as you turn off
pulling
the
my
video,
leg
it's
or
great
what?
again. No,
It's
as soon
very
as you
bad.
turn off
Okay.
the video, it's very good. Yeah.
Well, I've been working on this. And
Also,
it's-
I have a thunderstorm in my area, and my internet connection's spotty, so I might be chipping in and out. And if I do freeze, just continue the conversation without me.
Okay.
I can always do it. I get the full video when I record. Mine, get my copy of the show. Arizona green tea. I thought you were showing me diesel or petrol in a
No,
container.
it's hard
That's
to get
good.
a light on this thing. Arizona Black Label tea. There it is.
Nice.
Get-
Nice.
I've gotten the habit of drinking that mixed half and half with Diet
Ooh,
Sprite.
no.
There's no caffeine.
Diet
There's
Sprite?
there's no sugar in all.
There's
of
no
that,
sugar.
and
I
or
was-
caffeine. in any of that. It's diet decaf
About to say,
tea.
I thought there would be a lot of sugar in it.
No, diet
Jesus.
decaf tea and diet Sprite, and it's awesome, half and half. It's like a carbonated tea, and it tastes sweet, but it isn't.
George, could you turn on your video again? Could I talking into your microphone in your setup?
Okay, my video's on, and I can't fix that sound problem. You said you're still brushing on the mic.
Okay, I see what you got.
But I'm not brushing anything on the
You're
mic.
popping,
So
though.
what it is
What
you
are
are
you
popping.
hearing?
So you're popping when you have a direct.
Yeah, I got this
Looks-
thing.
Yeah, it looks like a Logitech shotgun mic. It's like cardioid pattern where it picks up
Popping,
audio.
okay. This should improve it.
Yes, and it's most likely not weighted. It's probably sitting on your table.
No, unfortunately, I don't think it's direct.
Sounds like he's had a stroke. I mean, it's terrible.
No, don't say that. Come on. Like, you can get away with jokes like that. I can't say that.
I don't think it's got any I don't think it's got any pattern whatsoever.
George, would
Here
you
it's
mind
all
coming out and coming back in again?
To the side.
George, would you mind leaving and coming back in?
Still popping.
You've completely frozen.
Okay.
Would you mind leaving and coming back in?
Would you turn it off and turn it back on?
No,
again?
it is
Yeah,
weighted.
just basically
Actually,
That sounds
turn it off
better.
and turn it back on again. Turn off your whole system, and I'm gonna kick you out, but I want you to come right back, okay, George?
I have had
I want you to come back, George. I want you to come right back in, okay? Okay, I want him to come right back in. Hopefully, it's always an unfortunate thing, but I think it's just the rural area that he in has like a group. This is as much information we can pump out in the
Yeah, I
rural
just
South.
posted that live link, and I guess a lot of people are having fun watching the shenanigans going on during the break.
Right.
Yeah, sorry I didn't get
Okay.
that to you earlier.
I want George to come
Oh,
back
that's
in.
okay.
He's definitely going to come back in. I know George, I want you to come back in. Please. I hope he does. Okay. And you guys ready to kick back in from that second half?
Sure.
Yep.
Talking about gods and why don't they turn the other
Okay.
cheek? I think
Don't forget to hit your flag when you start back. I usually hit it on one.
Okay, perfect. I'm going to. There he is. Perfect. George, thanks for coming back.
Did you eat all that? You.
back.
You're back.
I'll bet it's worse.
It's
Yeah, I'm
still
back, but am I worse
Good.
or
That's
better?
better right there. That's
now
long as
your
your
audio's
video's
good. We
off.
turned off your video.
Yeah.
We turned off your video, but your audio's good. Thanks for coming.
Okay,
right back.
I mean, I can reboot the whole damn computer if you'd like.
You need to find out how to get a picture of you, and just put your picture up if you can. So we'll
Exactly.
have that.
Okay.
All right. And in general, we're going to be talking about gods. Why don't they turn the other cheek too? We're coming back to the show. Larry, you good?
Yep.
Sweet.
I'm
We're
feeding
starting
the dog some
in
treats. Okay.
5, 4. Oh, resume the recording. My bad. 5, 4, 3, 2.
Hello and welcome back to the Digital Free Thought Radio Hour on WOZO Radio 103.9 LP FM right here in Knoxville, Tennessee. And this is Doubter 5, Larry Rhodes. And this is Sunday, June 6, 2021. And I'd like to talk about the local atheist group in Knoxville, Atheist Society of Knoxville, or ASK, founded in 2002. We're in our 19th year. ASK now has over 1,000 members. We have weekly Zoom meetings and in-person meetings. So be sure to go to Meetup or KnoxvilleAtheist.org and find out more about it. Our in-person meetings are at Barley's Tap Room and Pizzeria in Knoxville's Old City on the patio. You can find us in Facebook, Meetup, KnoxvilleAtheist.org, or just Google Knoxville Atheist. It's just that simple. By the way, if you don't live in Knoxville, you should still go to Meetup and search for an atheist group in your town. Don't find one? Start one.
Part 1.
Where do you want to pick up there, Wombat?
Hey, we're talking about turning the other cheek. I want to talk about why don't gods do it more. I think we've picked on the Christian God so much times, but it's always a classic. I don't get old. It doesn't get old with me. I've noted a number of times that Christian gods, or including the Jewish God and Islamic God, basically variations of like the same Abrahamic God, to be honest with you, or just depending on what version you update you're talking about. Even like Mormon gods, which are its own offshoot, but very very not in the mindset of and I feel like gods that don't practice turning the other cheek, or at least holy books that don't depict their God being willing to do that, afford humans the idea that they don't have to either, especially if they're being told to be as godly as possible. And I feel like if you are perfect and benevolent, being able to forgive without any sort of recompense should be a mark of your benevolence. And if you lack that, that's a problem. Dread Pirate, what do you think?
Well, it's interesting, and I hear this a lot amongst people, certainly who are Christians, where they will interchange between turn the other cheek and eye for an eye. That those two phrases are arbitrarily interchangeable depending on the situation they want to justify. And it's, as you say, it's a justification for other people's behavior who are basing their morality and on a book rather than on found good reasons.
Sure. George Brown, what do you think?
Well, I want to ask you, Dread Pirate, about that. Those two polar opposite statements. You know, an eye for an eye and turn the other cheek. When a person flip flops back and forth between those, how do you respond?
Well, I point out the contradiction. I say how how do you determine under which circumstances you apply the one or the other? Is it based on how you feel about it, or is there some objective standard? Often that question sometimes is jarring enough. There, you see the eyes kind of go up and to the right, and the aporia, the sense of, oh, geez, I guess I never really thought about it that way, right?
The thoughtful moment.
Do you think you got through?
Hard to say. Most of the times I don't. Once people know where I stand on it, they don't come back at me with that kind of language anymore. It's just they know I'm not going to put up with it. So unless they're willing to have a conversation about it, then they just don't even bother talking to me.
So I'm interested in hearing from Larry on this. What do you think, Larry?
Well, on the turn the other cheek, or talking about picking two different passages that are polar opposites, I've always felt that the Bible was more like a Rorschach test. Those ink block tests. That it really doesn't have an image on it, but the viewer supplies what they think the image says, and that's what you get from the Bible. What you go to the Bible and you come back with says more about the person reading the Bible than it does the Bible itself. Because you can pull love, you can pull hate, you can pull discrimination, you can pull destruction or creation,
ignorance, willful ignorance, sometimes.
anything you want out of the Bible to justify your previously held conceits.
Exactly. Yeah.
The other thing was that I've got a cartoon that I like to post. It's a little kid in Sunday school and raised his hands. It says, if God tells us to forgive and turn the other cheek, but then he turns around and roasts his enemies forever. He punishes them. He doesn't forgive or forget. If you don't believe in him or you do wrong or break a commandment, he puts you in hell and tortures you. And it's not a remedial the kid doesn't say this. I'm taking off on it. Hell is not a remedial punishment like the Department of Corrections. It's not supposed to correct your behavior. It's pain.
It's a terminal point.
Or the
eternal punishment for finite crimes.
Yep.
And it's just pain for pain's sake.
Yep.
It's just torture. Period.
Now,
no
Larry,
reason.
I'm glad you brought this up. I do have some opinions on hell, because if you were to tell me that there was a whole all of human history's grammar Nazis are probably so annoying that they'll probably go to heaven, and I don't want to go to heaven with them, right? If heaven exists. And so if you're going to ask me, like, who's in heaven? Well, it's probably Republicans. It's probably West Federal Baptist Church protesters. It's probably grammar Nazis and people who use coupons at grocery stores. Because, why you take up all my time? What's going on here?
Yeah.
Whereas hell, who's in hell? It's like you got the rock stars, you got the esports players, you got, ping pong guys. You got the cool people there. I'm like, okay, between these groups, and I have to spend an eternity there. Yeah, I'll get used to the flame. It won't burn after a certain point. It won't bother me. And if it does bother me, then I'll be like, at least I'm not around a bunch of grammar Nazis.
Yeah.
That's funny.
And there's the special exemptions,
Just
for
me.
believers.
It's not bunch of
versus-
Tyrone. It's around several grammar Nazis.
Right. It's like saying that
I'm being a little
since,
facetious, but yeah.
since Hitler was a Christian, he was Catholic, he'd be in heaven,
Sure.
where all of the Jews that he killed would be in hell
Mm.
because they didn't accept Christ as their savior.
Yeah.
So
Exactly.
it just makes no
And-
sense.
And so I was joking around before, but I think this is my most salient point. Like, two things. One, I could not be around people for eternity who are okay with another group of people burning and suffering for all of eternity and are okay with it because they're in paradise. Like, in my head, knowing that other people are suffering for all eternity for a finite crime and I'm experiencing paradise, I can't experience it.
Yeah. It's,
Right.
Yeah. It's not rational.
And if you forget all
In my
if you-
head, heaven aren't worth.
If,
are some of the
if
worst
God
people
makes
ever.
you forget those people so you won't be tortured by their memory, are you still you? I mean, if my mother knew I was in heaven,
Exactly.
hell, and she was in heaven, but God made her forget me, she's not the
Yeah.
person she used to be.
Right.
Yeah, you're just tinkering around on a brain, and now that's not
Mhm.
even the person anymore.
Mhm.
That's
Right.
what I'm saying. I'm impressed. Buffalo George, I would love to hear from you. I haven't heard from you in a while. What's up?
I've often wondered that maybe the Christians believe that heaven is the other cheek and it's always there. But of course, you have to believe to get in there. But the thing that's a question that's always been of interest to me is how do the Jewish people handle this? Because they don't really believe in heaven.
No, they got Sheol and some other thing going on there, right?
But what does that mean? I don't know.
Well, they love making up words. So chutzpah.
What's the counterpart of heaven in
you know,
the Jewish faith?
Well, I don't know.
That's what
I'm
I
not
was
talking about secular Jews. I'm talking about, for example, the very strict Jewish people. What's the
Sure.
counterpart?
Well, we have a Jew. Well, we have a person who was raised Jewish here, sort of. George Brown, what do you think?
Well, that's why I raised my electronic hand just now. I really don't know, but my son, who's checked into this more than I have, tells me that there is a sort of a Jewish heaven and a vague concept of a hell. That's what my son says. I couldn't care less myself. I think the idea of both is just totally absurd. And to me, if there is such a thing as a God, the God would not allow a hell to exist. So the whole damn thing
Sure.
is so contradictory that it.
Especially
Hey.
a loving God.
Yeah. I would also say this too. The things that make God upset are rules that he himself made up. And it's sin in the sense. And like, if you write the book on what is a sin and what isn't a sin, you have control of what is essentially making you upset or what you're choosing not to do. Yet you make beings that are capable of doing the sin. So like, if flying 30 feet in the air was a sin, don't give animals wings. But if I don't know, flipping the bird is a sin, don't give us middle fingers. Cars that double park.
Yeah, right.
Stuff like
Or
that.
making
Like, there's-
homosexuality a sin.
Yeah, stop
but
making
then
gay people.
having
if you
people
don't like
born into homosexuality.
Yeah. Stop making gay people if you don't like gay people. Like,
Right.
there's a way to
Yeah.
manufacture that through nature rather than making it the thing and then saying there's something wrong with you your
Right.
entire life.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I think it's because Christianity is stuck in a long history
Mm.
That is, you got to maintain the history, or you lose the whole concept, and the pews won't be as full.
Sure, you got to keep those pews full. But I also feel like the idea of turning the other cheek is not a particularly attractive idea for a very powerful being that you should have a lot of authority for, right? Like from our big ambiguous authority figures, we like to have decisive actions, clear consequences, even if they're harsh. And you can use that if you're on the lower end of the totem pole to say, well, don't do the thing I don't like you to do because God doesn't like you to do that thing. And that's very, very powerful. Like a truly benevolent God that is, willing to forgive without, sacrificing their own son bloodily on a human sacrifice cross. It's just like, no, you don't even need to pray for that. Like, that's not even a big deal. That's a very hard God to convince people to join the military for, or to persuade people to buy certain kind of food, or shift the economy a certain way, or keep mega churches funded.
Right.
That's a hard God to sell. And I think that goes a long way with it.
Yeah, I don't think that,
go for it, George.
I was going to say, I don't think that Christianity can ever accept evolution, because it's turning a lot of this over to nature. And that's a problem, of course, because of the long history that the Christian religion has to maintain in order to keep the pews full.
Sure, yeah. I also feel like it affects parenting as well. And I don't have children. Parenting. To have God as the model of like the ultimate father, but to have this, sort of vindictive, jealous, explicitly jealous being who doesn't turn the other cheek to like any sort of offense. Like, even if you worship a different God, that's a punishable crime worthy of being sent to hell for. And it's like, my way or the highway. You have to respect me or nobody else. If we had a more forgiving God, if we had a God that's more likely to turn the other cheek, I think we'd have parents that'd be able to instill that in their kids a bit more. And we'd have a less polarized society, maybe a society that's willing to, manage offenses if they can understand the intent of where they came from. George, what do you think? George Brown.
I forgot what I was going to say.
Oh, all right. Dred, I'm going to throw something out at you.
Sure.
What do you think if God was more, the Christian God, if he was a little bit more Canadian? Would that be... Yeah, what would that look like, and how would that be better?
He'd be apologizing a lot more for the bad stuff he did, and
a God that apologizes is a huge step. That's incredible. That would blow my mind. It's like, oh, geez, I made all these gay people, but okay, well, I'm sorry about that, guys. Okay,
I'm sorry I didn't do enough good enough job on you guys. Like, how can I make it up to you? Yeah. That's the God I want.
Hey, yeah.
Then have nature be your God.
There you go. Exactly.
Then have nature be your God.
Well, that's the essence of it, right?
Yeah, it is.
We change over time, so right. Not that we're necessarily getting better or that we're on some rung of a ladder,
right?
But and I'm actually reading I think I mentioned the book I'm reading, How the Mind Works by Steven Pinker.
Sure.
And right now he's talking about life as a bush rather than a ladder, and it's really, really fascinating reading.
I found that there's no facts always beat fiction. It's just a question of you have to learn the fact. And so, like, when you look at God as like this fictional character in many holy books, it's like, yeah, it's very cruel, very powerful. But if you look at nature, whoa, like some of the most, not necessarily cruel, but like the most uncaring destruction of complete series of animals every day. Is like, you made yourself a little bit too brown.
And whole extinctions, like huge biospheres, several extinction events that have taken more than 90% of the entire life on Earth.
90%. Ice ages,
it's totally uncaring. It has no direction and no conscious, no entity, no agency.
A fun game, maybe a fun game.
A fun game. Wow.
What was it? What would be a fun game?
I said maybe that's a fun game.
For nature, if it was anthropomorphic being, but like, it's survival is the game we're playing right now, and we can get so used to surviving with comfy chairs and air conditioning that we forget that we're doing it right now. But that is what's going on outside every day. Hey, what's up, Larry?
Oh, we were talking about evolution, and it's a bush, not a ladder. One of the things that kind of get to me when I'm online is that so many people think that evolution has ended with us. Here we are.
Right.
We're the best,
Right.
because everything else was earlier and
Right.
older and not as good as us. The dinosaurs were around for 150 million years. We've been around for less than a quarter.
That's what you were Googling. I wanted to know what you were Googling.
No, I didn't need to Google that. But think about the lowly cockroach. It's been around. The termites, they're heck a lot more prolific than we are. There are a lot of successful evolutionary ends, if you call it end, because it's now. But evolution is continuing, even for us.
Yeah.
We don't know what the next humans are going to look like. Absolutely. They'll probably be electronically enhanced going forward. We'll do our own evolution at this point, but it doesn't mean we'll stop biologically evolving everything else that's in the biome.
And it's interesting too that Stephen makes this point, is that we may be seeing a slowdown in biological evolution because we do occupy every ecosystem niche on the planet, and that our evolution is now driven largely by culture.
Yep.
And so evolution is taking place right before us, and it's a Darwinian evolution. It's just not in our genes anymore. It's in our memes, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, and I absolutely believe that human beings have a proclivity to be very, when we look at history, and so we think history began when humans started.
Right.
History began when humans began. We can even see that at microcosm. I've seen world history textbooks that have started at 1942 because they're taught in American schools.
Right.
1942.
Yeah, it's just like Columbus sails the ocean.
We've been around at least 200,000.
Yeah, but carbon
You're breaking up,
Ty. Us a lot further back than that. So the information about humans and and everything goes way back, because we now know how to interpret it.
Mm-hmm.
And there were, at one time on Earth's history, there were at least 5 humanoid species. We were just one of them.
Mm-hmm.
And there have been 10 or 12 that didn't overlap in time. So, we're just the ones that won the battle for supremacy, basically. Mm-hmm. But there have been quite a few other humanoid species.
Sure, and even the cross breeding of Neanderthals. Like, I know I have a small percentage in my DNA. So
all these people with Neanderthals in their bodies. This is bizarre. This is a bizarre concept. Okay, well, I'm gonna have to look this up later on, but. Yeah, that's kind of
really. I sent off my DNA to have it analyzed, and it came back with like 2%.
Yeah,
Neanderthal.
Yeah.
Nice. Maybe that would be on your mom's side at least.
Came from.
Right?
Don't talk about my mom.
I'm talking about mitochondrial DNA. But it's all right. It's okay. It's okay. All right. Hey, I would say this though. We were talking about the intent of offenses is what dictates whether or not I determine if it's a means for me to step in and try to make a correction, or to let it go and just move on and just either write off the person or just write off the action, right? Mm-hmm. It's about the intent. And what I found with what nature does is there's no intent to what nature's doing.
Right.
So like when a bad thing happens in nature, like a thunderstorm happens and I lose power, I'm not angry and I don't need to turn the other cheek to that. It's sort of just like, I can't be vindictive against nature. It's just a thing that happened. Mm-hmm. But if somebody came and cut my power cables to my home, I'd be like, I need to have a conversation with you or call the cops. That is when I'm not willing to turn the other cheek, because you've made my life inconvenient. You may have caused me harm. Mm-hmm. And so if I can avoid needless harm, I will do so. But if I can avoid needless harm, I'm going to step up and make a correction. I would think that would be my standard. Dredd, you were talked about what's your standard for when you decide to go for an eye or turn the other cheek. For me, it's, can I avoid needless harm? If I can't, then I'm going to step in and make a point that what the harm you're causing me is not necessary in my life.
Yeah,
I'm either going to write you off or write off the action.
Right. For me, I'm really I don't like confrontation, so I tend to tend to let go a lot more than perhaps I should, just in my own best interest, because of course sometimes people take that as a sign of weakness and then double down on their intent to harm or malign you in some way. So it's a bit of a balancing act to try and figure out or to consider what the repercussions of acting or not acting are, and then apply some thinking to that to ultimately come to an answer. But there certainly isn't just any hard and fast rule. It's a situation by situation sort of determination.
George Brown, your thoughts?
I'm going to throw out a little mini topic here. I think the word troll came up earlier. I used to be involved in a free software group on Usenet, very lively discussion, and we were invaded by a couple of trolls, and these people were extremely disruptive. They attacked people, and what happened with me was that one of the trolls adopted my persona, and in my persona attacked other people.
Wow.
Oh, that is rough.
And now,
that happened.
what would you guys do if that were you? Would you turn the other cheek? I mean, it's like exploding in my head.
So, like, in my opinion, words can cause harm, and if someone's using my personality or information to represent me in a consent to, that's harm, and I'm going to go out of my way to figure out a way to fix that, but also apply protection so it doesn't happen again in the future. But that's something I would not turn another cheek to. Dred?
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I've certainly had that happen, and somebody taking over my messenger and chatting with my friends, pretending to be me, and and saying, well, I just won $175,000. You just got to send me a check for $400, and I'll cut you in on it, or like just that kind of crazy stuff.
Some weird scheme.
Typically, it's the consistency of a person's behavior that I note, and when you see something in a messenger, if you know the person well enough, you figure out, this is sounding off. This isn't Ty. Ty wouldn't speak to me this way, or Ty's grammar, for instance, might be, I know that you have good grammar and your spelling is good, and so if I see words that are jumbled or syntax that isn't correct, that's always a good
giveaway.
It's a giveaway.
You look at the world skeptically, even from your friends, even text messages from your friends. You
absolutely.
apply a healthy amount of skepticism to it. And I think
Absolutely.
that's
Absolutely.
more of a demonstration of why skepticism is very important. So that's great points, Dred.
Yeah.
But that's not how you solve the problem once you've gotten that label.
Yeah, you got to put protections on after the fact too.
Oh yeah,
you gotta,
of course. Change your password. And do all that good
I would
stuff.
say this: I like the idea of consistency because I have friends that do not raise my blood pressure. I have friends that do, right? And whenever I have an engagement with a friend that does raise my blood pressure, I'm always like, why am I friends with this person?
Right. Right. Yeah.
I am friends
Not
with this
only do they have to earn your friendship, they have to earn the right to keep it.
Yes, and and for a while, until even like graduate school, I realized my friendship has value, and I can make friends with anybody. So
Sure.
why am I making friends with people who are deliberately causing me harm, health-wise, mentally-wise? That's not good for me.
Right.
It's easy enough for me to preen the number of friends that I have, so that I just have the core that I do trust and care
Or
about.
family, for that matter.
Yep.
And family
exactly.
too.
If they're destructive or acidic toward you.
Yeah. And I'll tell you this: family isn't just blood.
Right.
Family is people that you choose to be with and have deeper relationships with.
Right.
Absolutely. George Brown, what do you got?
I just wanted to say that at my advanced age, I've learned that I simply need to eliminate toxic people from my life.
Nice.
I can't afford to have friends like this. Even if they're very interesting to me, they're still toxic.
Mm-hmm. That's actually why I left the band I was in. I sing the blues, and we've been playing together for a couple of years. And I was finding that every practice, we practice for 2 hours, but the first half hour would be taken up in, kind of calling down groups of people, and it got worse and worse. to the point it was just like it was outright discrimination and bigotry. And then there was a whole angle of pseudoscience, homeopathy, and all these crazy things that I would spend then, the first half hour of a practice, either saying something, and I was the only one in the band that, came at it from a skeptical point of view. So I would be, trying to have them, like epistemology, doing street epistemology.
Yeah.
But then it got so tiresome that,
Yes,
if
absolutely.
I dread going to band practice. And so eventually the last day I said, okay, what do you so-and-sos want to play? Or shall we start playing? Because I've had enough of this conversation. And so, of course, as the singer, I was picking the song. So I put, so we did Stuck in the Middle with You. And that was my last practice.
Yeah. Sometimes cultures evolve. Like we've talked about that before in the show. And if they become toxic, it's good to remove yourself from because there's so many other cultures and you can make your own culture too.
Exactly.
And I think that's a really important point. And that's a good way to show that you turn the other cheek because you didn't go in there with, haha, this is my last practice and I'm pumping in gas that's toxic into this room. We're all going down with me. It's like, no, you're just like, I'm removing myself from the situation.
Yeah, exactly.
You guys be you, right? I like that. And there's good examples of that. God from that. Okay. Whichever God heard me. Larry, would you mind getting ready to take us out? You can play the ending music and start the lights. Dread, where can we with that?
So you can find me on my YouTube channel at Mind Pirate, Pyrate, and I live stream this show on Sunday mornings at 8 a.m. Pacific Standard Time or Pacific Daylight Time, depending on what it is. And
Nice.
Please sign up. And I need 10 more subscribers, and I can do some, do some modifying of my channel and whatnot. So. If you like it, sign up, and I'll be here every Sunday as long as we're doing the show.
Yeah, cool. Absolutely. Yeah, I love doing the show. Buffalo, you said you had a lab. Is there a good science thing we should check up on before next week? Is there anything that you would recommend? Like, hey, here's something cool. Chick-fil-A guy, CEO, should we Google that? Like, what would you recommend that we look into before next week? How can we better ourselves through education?
I don't know. I've been reading some stuff on how the DNA of a child can in fact be changed because of serious trauma.
Whoa!
And that speaks to the fact that that's a nature versus nurture thing.
Yeah,
that's a lot. That's a Lamarckian thing.
It gets to the methylation thing, the post-translational, where once the DNA makes the protein. Or just in between those steps, there can be modifications, and they can be altered by extreme behaviors.
Nice.
That affects criminality. That affects a lot of things. But it's an up and coming area of science.
Cool.
And that's the question of how, our DNA is not fixed, and how can it be changed by nurture, by extreme nurture? And there is evidence for it now. That's pretty interesting.
I dig it. I follow it. George Brown, I hear you breathing on the mic.
I apologize, and I assure you I will try to use a directional microphone next time I come in.
My friend.
But anyway, following up on what George Buffalo just said is I have been looking into cluster B personality disorders. That's a psychological criteria. It's very interesting to me, and what I wanted to do was just recommend learning about people who have a very negative effect on the rest of us and coming to grips with that.
Cool. Not bad. In terms of that, yeah. Larry, I think that's a great point. Larry, why don't you take us out? We got like 20 seconds.
Where do we find your stuff?
Okay.
Don't worry about it. You're already on that channel. Larry, what do you got?
Well, my own content can be found at digitalfreethought.com. Be sure to click on the blog button for radio show archives of atheist songs. These articles, these shows, all of that will be found on digitalfreethought.com. If you go to YouTube, you can find my channel by searching for Doubter 5 or Larry Rhodes. My book, Atheism, What's It All About, is available on Amazon in electronic format or paperback. If you have any questions for the show, you can send them to askanatheist@knoxvilleatheist.org. We'll answer them on future shows. If you have trouble leaving religion behind, you can go to recoveringfromreligion.org and find people that will help you. If you're watching this on YouTube, be sure to like and subscribe. This has been the Digital Free Thought Radio Hour. Remember, everybody's going to somebody else's hell. The time to worry about it is when they prove that heavens and hells and souls are real. Until then, don't sweat it and enjoy your life. We'll see you next week. Say bye, everybody.
Ahoy.
Bye, everybody.